The morning sun painted the glass facade of Quantum Enterprises in shades of gold and amber. Olivia Hart stood on the sidewalk, clutching her portfolio against her chest like a shield. The building rose 35 floors above downtown Boston, a monument to innovation and success. She had practiced her answers 100 times, rehearsed her smile in the mirror until it looked natural, and chosen her outfit with meticulous care. The charcoal pencil skirt and white silk blouse struck the perfect balance between professional and confident. Taking a deep breath, Olivia pushed through the revolving doors into the lobby. The interior was breathtaking. Polished granite floors reflected the light from massive chandeliers, and a living wall of green plants stretched along one side, bringing nature into this temple of technology. She approached the reception desk, where a young woman with auburn hair greeted her warmly.
Elliot, good morning.
I'm Olivia Hart. I have an interview scheduled for 9 o'clock. The receptionist smiled and typed something into her computer. Yes, Miss Hart. You'll be meeting with Mr. Pierce on the 35th floor. Take the executive elevator on your right. Someone will meet you there. The elevator ride felt both endless and too short. Olivia watched the numbers climb, her reflection staring back at her from the mirrored walls. She had worked so hard to get here. Years of late nights studying, internships that paid nothing, and countless rejections had led to this moment. Quantum Enterprises was known for revolutionizing sustainable technology, and their CEO, Nathan Pierce, was a legend in the industry. When the doors opened, a woman in her 40s, with kind brown eyes and a warm smile, extended her hand. Olivia. I'm Jennifer Cole, Executive Assistant to Mr. Pierce. Welcome to Quantum. How was your journey this morning? Smooth, thank you, Olivia replied, grateful for the friendly reception. She followed Jennifer through corridors lined with photographs of groundbreaking projects. Solar farms in Africa, wind turbines in Scandinavia, clean water initiatives in South America. Each image told a story of change and hope. Jennifer stopped at a pair of double doors made of frosted glass. Mr. Pierce is ready for you. Just be yourself. He values authenticity above all else. She knocked once and opened the door. The office took Olivia's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Boston Harbor. Sailboats dotted the water like white wings against the blue. But it was the man standing by those windows who captured her complete attention. Nathan Pierce turned as she entered. He was younger than she expected, perhaps in his mid-30s, with dark brown hair that held hints of copper in the sunlight. He wore a navy suit that fit him perfectly, though he had foregone the tie, leaving the top button of his white shirt open. His eyes were a striking hazel, shifting between green and gold as he moved toward her. Miss Hart, he said, his voice carrying a warmth that immediately put her at ease. Thank you for coming. I've been looking forward to this conversation. His handshake was firm but not aggressive. Olivia felt a strange flutter in her chest, something she had not anticipated. This was supposed to be a professional meeting, nothing more. Yet the moment their hands touched, she sensed something shift in the air between them. Please sit. Nathan gestured to a chair across from his desk. As Olivia settled into her seat, she noticed him pause for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. His gaze seemed to take her in, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but with genuine interest that went beyond her resume. Nathan walked behind his desk and picked up a folder. Your portfolio is impressive. Your thesis on renewable energy integration in urban environments caught my attention. You propose solutions that most engineers with twice your experience would never consider. Thank you, Mr. Pierce, Olivia said, finding her professional voice despite the way her heart was racing. I believe innovation comes from looking at problems from angles others might miss. Growing up in a small town with limited resources taught me to think creatively. Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her with those changing hazel eyes. Tell me about that. Your application mentioned you're from Riverside, Vermont. That's quite a distance from the tech world. Olivia felt herself relax slightly. This was territory she knew well. Riverside has a population of about 2,000 people. We had one stoplight, one diner, and a library that was only open 3 days a week. But what we lacked in resources, we made up for in community. When I was 12, our elementary school needed a new playground. Instead of waiting for funding that would never come, The town came together. We built it ourselves. It must have been quite an undertaking, Nathan said, genuine interest coloring his voice. It was, Olivia continued, her eyes brightening with the memory. But it taught me something crucial. Real change does not always come from having unlimited resources. Sometimes it comes from being resourceful with what you have. That's the philosophy I bring to sustainable technology. How do we create solutions that work for communities who need them most, not just those who can afford them? Nathan was quiet for a moment, and something in his expression shifted. He stood and walked back to the window, his hands sliding into his pockets. Olivia watched him, noticing the tension in his shoulders. The way he seemed to be wrestling with something internal. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, more personal. Miss Hart, I'm going to be honest with you, which is something I rarely do in these situations. He turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his eyes caught her completely off guard. From the moment you walked through that door, I've been struggling to maintain the professional distance this interview requires. Olivia's breath caught. She should have felt alarmed or offended, but instead, she found herself leaning forward slightly, drawn to his honesty. Nathan continued, his words careful but sincere. That's entirely inappropriate on my part, and I want to apologize. You deserve to be evaluated solely on your merits, your brilliant ideas, and your passion for making a difference. Not because I find myself remarkably drawn to the person behind the resume. The silence that followed felt charged with possibility. Olivia knew she should respond professionally, should redirect the conversation back to safer ground. But something in her recognized the courage it took for him to admit what he was feeling. Mr. Pierce, she began, her voice steady despite her racing pulse, I appreciate your honesty more than you know. And if I'm being equally honest, I felt something shift in this room too. I came here hoping to impress you with my qualifications, but I did not expect to find myself equally impressed by your integrity. Nathan's eyes darkened with emotion. He took a step toward her, then stopped himself, clearly fighting an internal battle. I'm going to offer you this position, he said firmly, not because of whatever this connection is between us, but because you are genuinely the most qualified candidate I have interviewed. Your vision aligns perfectly with where I want to take this company. But I need you to understand something. He moved closer. Close enough that Olivia could see the flecks of gold in his hazel eyes, the slight shadow along his jaw, the way his chest rose and fell with controlled breaths. If you accept this position, Nathan continued, we will need to maintain professional boundaries. What I'm feeling right now cannot interfere with your career or your future here at Quantum. You have too much potential, too much to offer this world, for me to jeopardize that with my personal feelings. Olivia stood, smoothing her skirt, and took a small step closer to him. Not quite invading his space, but close enough to show she was not afraid of what existed between them. I understand, Mr. Pierce. I came here to build a career, to make a difference in the world of sustainable technology. That remains my primary goal. She paused, then added more softly, but I would be lying if I said I could ignore what I feel standing this close to you. I'm not sure what this means or where it could possibly go, but I felt it the moment we shook hands. Nathan inhaled deeply, his restraint visibly tested. You're making this incredibly difficult. Good, Olivia replied, surprising herself with her boldness. Something tells me you're a man who appreciates a challenge, Mr. Pierce. A slow smile transformed his serious features, making him look younger, more approachable. You have absolutely no idea, Miss Hart, and please call me Nathan, at least when we're alone. Then you should call me Olivia, she replied, matching his smile. Nathan nodded, then seemed to remember himself. He took a deliberate step back, re-establishing professional distance. You start Monday. Jennifer will send you all the necessary paperwork, including details about your benefits package and team assignment. Welcome to Quantum Enterprises, Olivia. Olivia gathered her portfolio, feeling his gaze follow her movements. As she reached the door, she paused and looked back. Nathan stood by his desk, hands gripping the edge as if anchoring himself in place. His expression promised this was only the beginning of something neither of them fully understood yet. Monday, she confirmed, her voice carrying a note of anticipation. I'll be ready. As the elevator descended, Olivia pressed her palm against her chest, feeling her heart pound with excitement and possibility. She had come seeking a job and found something infinitely more complicated. The professional opportunity of a lifetime now intertwined with a personal connection she had never expected. Monday suddenly seemed both too far away and not nearly enough time to prepare for what came next. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of nerves and excitement that kept Olivia awake most of Sunday night. She had changed her outfit 3 times before settling on tailored black pants and a soft lavender blouse that was professional yet made her feel confident. As she stood before the mirror in her small apartment, she gave herself a firm talk about maintaining boundaries and focusing solely on her work. The early morning commute gave her time to review the onboarding materials Jennifer had sent over the weekend. Olivia would be joining the Urban Sustainability Division, working on a project to implement solar technology in low-income neighborhoods. It was exactly the kind of meaningful work she had dreamed about, and she was determined to prove she deserved this opportunity based on merit alone. When she arrived at Quantum Enterprises, Jennifer greeted her with the same warm smile from Friday. She handed Olivia a security badge and a welcome packet, then led her through the building on a comprehensive tour. The company culture was everything Olivia had hoped for. Open workspaces encouraged collaboration, break rooms featured locally sourced snacks, and every floor had a quiet meditation room for employees who needed a moment of peace. Her desk was located on the 28th floor in a bright corner with windows overlooking the harbor. The space was modern and comfortable, with an adjustable standing desk and 2 large monitors already set up. Around her sat 5 other team members who introduced themselves throughout the morning. There was Rebecca Park, a senior engineer with 15 years of experience who immediately took Olivia under her wing. Thomas Wright, a data analyst with a dry sense of humor who kept everyone laughing during their morning briefing. Sophia Martinez, a project coordinator who seemed to know everyone in the building and had already invited Olivia to join the company's volunteer group. And then there was James Sullivan. James approached her desk around 10 in the morning with 2 cups of coffee. He was handsome in a conventional way, with blonde hair styled carefully and a smile that showed perfectly white teeth. "Thought you might need this," he said, setting 1 cup on her desk. "First days can be overwhelming." "That's very thoughtful. Thank you," Olivia replied, accepting the coffee politely. She noticed he lingered, leaning against her desk with casual confidence. "So Olivia Hart from Vermont," James said, clearly having done his homework. "How does a small-town girl end up at a place like Quantum?" "Hard work and a little bit of luck," Olivia answered diplomatically. She appreciated his friendliness, but something about his approach felt calculated, like he was following a script he had used before. "If you need someone to show you around Boston, grab dinner, maybe catch a Red Sox game." "I know all the best spots," James offered with a grin that suggested he expected her to say yes. Before Olivia could respond, Rebecca called out from across the workspace, "Sullivan, stop flirting and let the woman work. She's here to change the world, not listen to your tired pickup lines." The team laughed, and James raised his hands in mock surrender before returning to his own desk. Olivia shot Rebecca a grateful look, which the older woman returned with a knowing wink. The morning flew by in a whirlwind of orientations, software training, and team introductions. Olivia absorbed everything like a sponge, taking notes and asking questions that demonstrated her genuine interest. By lunch, she felt energized rather than overwhelmed. This was where she belonged. She was reviewing technical specifications for a solar panel array when she sensed someone standing nearby. Looking up, her breath caught. Nathan stood a few feet from her desk, hands in his pockets, watching her with an expression that was carefully neutral, but his eyes held warmth that contradicted his professional demeanor. "Miss Hart," he said formally, though she caught the slight hesitation before he used her last name. "I wanted to check on your first morning. I hope the team is making you feel welcome." Olivia was acutely aware that every person in the workspace had suddenly become very interested in their conversation. She kept her voice professional, though her heart had started that familiar racing. "Very welcome, Mr. Pierce. Everyone has been incredibly helpful. I'm already diving into the South End project specifications." Excellent, Nathan replied. He glanced at her monitors, stepping slightly closer to read what she was working on. Olivia caught the subtle scent of his cologne, something woodsy and clean that made her want to lean closer. I see Rebecca has you starting with the residential conversion calculations. That's one of our most challenging initiatives. I love a challenge, Olivia said, meeting his gaze directly. For just a moment, the professional mask slipped, and she saw the same attraction she had felt on Friday reflected in his eyes. Yes, Nathan said quietly, his voice dropping just low enough that only she could hear. I'm beginning to understand that about you. Then, louder, he addressed the entire team. Miss Hart comes highly recommended, and I expect everyone to support her as she gets up to speed. She brings a fresh perspective that I believe will benefit all our projects. With that, he walked away, though Olivia felt his presence lingered long after he had left the floor. She forced herself to refocus on her work, ignoring the curious glances from James and the knowing smile from Rebecca. The afternoon passed in productive concentration. Olivia threw herself into understanding the technical challenges of the South End project. The goal was to install affordable solar systems in a neighborhood where many families struggled with high energy costs. It required creative problem-solving, community engagement, and careful budget management. Everything about it excited her. By 6 p.m, most of the team had left for the day. Rebecca stopped by Olivia's desk on her way out. You planning to sleep here, or do you have a home to go to? Olivia laughed, glancing at her computer clock in surprise. I didn't realize how late it was. I just wanted to finish mapping out some initial ideas for the panel placement configurations. Word of advice, Rebecca said kindly. Pace yourself. This place can consume you if you let it. Nathan is passionate about the work, which means he expects passion from everyone else. But sustainable energy includes sustaining yourself. Thank you, Rebecca. I'll pack up soon, I promise. After Rebecca left, Olivia allowed herself another 30 minutes to refine her calculations. She was so absorbed in the work that she didn't hear footsteps approaching until a voice made her look up. I had a feeling I'd find you still here. Nathan stood beside her desk, his jacket removed and his shirt sleeves rolled up to his forearms. He looked tired, but energized in the way people do when they love what they do. In his hands, he carried 2 containers from the company cafeteria. I was just finishing up, Olivia said, her heart doing that impossible thing again where it seemed to skip and race simultaneously. You haven't eaten, Nathan observed. It wasn't a question. Neither have I. The cafeteria was closing, but the kitchen staff knows me well enough to pack up some leftovers. He held up the containers. Would you join me? We can eat and discuss your initial thoughts on the South End project. Completely professional, he added quickly. Just a CEO checking in on his newest team member's progress. Olivia knew she should say no. Knew that accepting meant crossing a line they had both agreed to maintain. But looking at Nathan standing there, offering food and conversation with such genuine interest, she found herself nodding. All right. But only if you promise to tell me the real story behind why you started Quantum. The official biography on the website feels too polished to be the whole truth. Nathan's smile was slow and genuine. Deal, but then you have to tell me what really made you leave Vermont. Because I suspect there's more to that story than seeking career opportunities. They moved to the small conference room adjacent to the workspace. The evening light streaming through the windows painted everything in shades of orange and pink. Nathan set out the food, simple pasta and salad, along with bottles of sparkling water from the break room. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily. Nathan told her about dropping out of graduate school to start Quantum in his garage, about the early failures and near bankruptcy, about the moment he realized he wanted to build something that mattered beyond profit margins. His passion was evident in every word, in the way his eyes lit up when he described seeing their first solar installation power an entire rural clinic in Kenya. Olivia shared her own story. Growing up in a town where opportunity was limited, where people worked hard but rarely got ahead. Her father was a mechanic who could fix anything, but never had enough customers to make ends meet. Her mother cleaned houses and took in sewing to pay for Olivia's college textbooks. The guilt of leaving them behind, mixed with the determination to make their sacrifices worthwhile. They must be incredibly proud of you, Nathan said softly. They are, Olivia replied, her throat tight with emotion. But sometimes I wonder if they understand why I had to leave. Why staying in Riverside would have meant giving up on dreams I didn't even know I had until I left. Nathan reached across the table, his hand covering hers for just a moment before he seemed to catch himself and pulled back. They understand. Anyone who loves you understands that sometimes loving someone means letting them fly, even when you wish they would stay close. The moment stretched between them, charged with everything they were not saying. Olivia felt the pull toward him growing stronger, making it harder to remember all the logical reasons why this was complicated. We should probably go, Nathan said finally, though he made no move to stand. It's getting late, and you have a full day tomorrow, Nathan, Olivia said, using his first name deliberately. Can I ask you something? Anything? Are you always this careful? This controlled about everything in your life? Nathan laughed, though it sounded almost pained. Only about things that matter. And you, Olivia Hart, somehow in just a few days, have become something that matters a great deal. What are we going to do about that? She asked quietly. I honestly don't know, Nathan admitted. Every logical part of me says we maintain distance, keep things professional. You're an employee now, and I have a responsibility to this company, and to you, to not let personal feelings compromise either. And the illogical part? Olivia prompted. Nathan stood and walked to the window, his reflection visible in the darkening glass. The illogical part wants to know everything about you. Wants to hear your laugh more often. Wants to see what happens when we stop pretending this connection is something we can just ignore. Olivia joined him at the window, standing close enough that their arms almost touched. Maybe we don't have to figure it all out tonight. Maybe we just acknowledge that this is real, whatever this is, and we navigate it one day at a time. That sounds remarkably reasonable for something that feels anything but reasonable, Nathan said. Turning to face her, they stood there, the city lights beginning to twinkle below them. Two people caught between what they should do and what they wanted to do. Finally, Nathan stepped back, creating necessary distance. Let me walk you to your car, he offered. They rode the elevator down in comfortable silence. In the parking garage, Nathan waited while Olivia unlocked her modest sedan, so different from the luxury vehicles parked nearby. Thank you for dinner, Olivia said, and for the conversation. I needed that more than I realized. So did I, Nathan admitted. Drive safely, Olivia. I'll see you tomorrow. She drove away. Olivia watched him in a rearview mirror, standing alone in the parking garage, hands in his pockets. Something had shifted between them tonight. The attraction was no longer just an unexpected spark, but a growing flame that would be increasingly difficult to contain. Her phone buzzed with a text message at the first. Red light. Against her better judgment, she glanced at it. Thank you for being honest tonight. It makes this both easier and impossibly harder. Sleep well, Olivia smiled, her heart full of possibility and complication in equal measure. She typed a quick response. Let's see what it brings. As she drove through the Boston streets toward her apartment, Olivia realized that everything had changed. The job was still important, the work still mattered, but now there was something more. Something that promised both incredible joy and potential heartbreak. And for the first time in her careful, planned life, she was ready to take that risk. The following weeks, at Quantum Enterprises, fell into a rhythm that was both exhilarating and torturous. Olivia threw herself into the South End project with fierce determination, working alongside Rebecca and the team to design a solar implementation system that would genuinely serve the community. Her ideas were innovative and practical, earning respect from colleagues who had initially viewed her as just another ambitious newcomer. But beneath the surface of professional accomplishment, something else was building. Nathan found reasons to visit the 28th floor more frequently than necessary. A question about budget allocations. A request for project updates. Casual check-ins that always seemed to last longer than they should. Each encounter was carefully professional on the surface, but their eyes told a different story. The office gossip mill, ever vigilant, began to notice. Olivia first became aware of it during a coffee break in the third week. She was refilling her mug when two women from accounting stopped talking abruptly as she approached. Their sudden silence was louder than any words. Similar moments accumulated throughout the week. Whispered conversations that ceased when she entered a room. Knowing glances exchanged between coworkers. James Sullivan's increasingly cool demeanor after she had politely declined his repeated invitations. It all came to a head on a Thursday afternoon, when Olivia overheard a conversation she was never meant to hear. She had stayed late again, working on final calculations for the community presentation scheduled for the following week. The floor was mostly empty and she was heading to the supply room when voices drifted from an open conference room. "I'm just saying it's suspicious," a male voice said. Olivia recognized it as James. She gets hired out of nowhere, and suddenly Pierce is on our floor every other day. He barely visited this division before she arrived. "Maybe he's just interested in the South End project," another voice suggested, though without much conviction. "Come on," James continued. "You saw them at the company meeting last week?" The way he looked at her when she presented her community engagement strategy. That wasn't professional interest. And she eats lunch at her desk every day, but somehow she was seen leaving the building with him last Tuesday night. Olivia's stomach tightened. They had grabbed coffee after a late meeting, nothing more, but clearly. That innocent interaction had been noted and interpreted through a lens of suspicion. "If she's sleeping her way to the top, that's her choice," a female voice added. "But it's not fair to the rest of us, who actually earn our positions." The words hit Olivia like a physical blow. She stood frozen in the hallway, her hands trembling with anger and hurt. Before she could decide whether to confront them or walk away, Rebecca's voice cut through the conversation like a knife. "That is enough." The older woman must have been in the conference room the entire time. "Olivia Hart earned her position here through talent and hard work. I've reviewed her credentials myself, and they're impeccable. What you're doing right now is creating a hostile work environment based on speculation and jealousy, Rebecca." "We're just talking," James protested. "You're spreading malicious gossip that could damage a colleague's reputation and career. And unless any of you have actual evidence of misconduct, which you don't because there isn't any, I suggest you focus on your own work and leave Miss Hart alone." Olivia didn't wait to hear more. She returned to her desk, gathered her things, and left the building quickly. The autumn evening was cold, matching the chill that had settled in her chest. She sat in her car for a long moment, fighting back tears of frustration. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. "Are you still in the building? I wanted to discuss the community presentation with you." Olivia stared at the message, her emotions warring. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to create the distance that would silence the gossip. But another part, the part that was tired of being careful and controlled, wanted to fight for what was growing between them. She typed back, "I just left. But we need to talk. Not about the presentation." "Where are you?" "Parking garage. Level 3. Don't leave. I'm coming down." 5 minutes later, Nathan emerged from the elevator, his expression concerned. He approached her car, and Olivia rolled down the window. "What happened?" he asked immediately. "Get in," Olivia said. "Please." Nathan walked around and slid into the passenger seat, looking out of place in her modest vehicle, but somehow still perfectly right. He turned to face her, and whatever he saw in her expression made his jaw tighten. "Tell me," he said softly. Olivia recounted the conversation she had overheard, watching Nathan's expression darken with each word. When she finished, silence filled the car for a long moment. "I'm so sorry," Nathan finally said, his voice rough with anger and regret. "This is exactly what I was afraid would happen. Your reputation shouldn't suffer because of my inability to stay away from you." "It's not just your fault," Olivia replied. "I haven't exactly been discouraging your attention. But Nathan, I need to know something." "What are we doing?" "Because right now, we're in this impossible middle ground where we're not together. But we're clearly not just colleagues either. And that ambiguity is feeding the gossip." Nathan ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she had come to recognize as his response to stress. "You're right. I've been selfish, wanting to be near you but not willing to define what that means. I told myself I was protecting your career, but maybe I was just protecting myself from having to make a real decision. And what decision is that? Olivia asked, her heart pounding. Nathan turned to face her fully, and the vulnerability in his eyes took her breath away. Whether I'm brave enough to risk everything for this? For you, because that's what it would mean, Olivia. Going public with a relationship between a CEO and an employee would invite scrutiny. There would be questions about favoritism, about whether your accomplishments are truly your own. The board would have concerns. Some people would always wonder if you earned your position or if I gave it to you. I know all of that, Olivia said quietly. I've thought about it constantly, but here's what I've realized. Those people are going to talk regardless. They're already talking. So the question isn't whether we can avoid gossip. The question is whether what we feel for each other is worth facing that gossip together. And is it? Nathan asked. Is it worth it to you? Olivia reached across the console and took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers. I came to Quantum to build a career and make a difference. Those goals haven't changed. But somewhere along the way, I also found someone who makes me want to be braver, to take risks I never thought I would take. So yes, Nathan, you're worth it to me. Nathan's expression shifted, something fierce and tender replacing the doubt. I don't deserve you, but I'm going to spend every day trying to... He leaned closer, and Olivia met him halfway. Their first kiss was everything she had imagined during those long weeks of careful distance. Gentle at first, then deeper as weeks of restrained attraction finally found release. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. So what now? Olivia asked. Now we do this right, Nathan said firmly. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting with HR and the board. I'm going to disclose our relationship officially. There will be protocols to follow. You'll need to report to someone else, not directly to me. There will be oversight on any promotions or raises you receive to ensure they're merit-based. It won't be easy. I don't need easy, Olivia replied. I just need honest, and honest is what you'll get, Nathan promised. He kissed her again, softer this time. Go home, get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be interesting. That night, Olivia barely slept. She rehearsed potential conversations, imagined various scenarios, and questioned her decision 100 times. But each time, doubt crept in. She remembered the feeling of Nathan's hand in hers, the sincerity in his eyes, and knew she was making the right choice. The next morning, the office was buzzing with an unusual energy. Olivia had barely settled at her desk when Jennifer appeared, asking her to come to the executive floor. Rebecca shot her an encouraging look as she left. In Nathan's office, she found not just Nathan, but also the head of HR, Margaret Chen, and 2 board members she recognized from company photos. Her stomach tightened with nerves. Miss Hart, please sit, Margaret said kindly. Mr. Pierce has informed us of the personal relationship that has developed between you two. We want to discuss how to handle this appropriately. The next hour was intense but professional. Nathan was transparent about the timeline of their relationship, emphasizing that Olivia had been hired solely on merit before any personal feelings developed. Margaret outlined new reporting structures. Olivia would now report directly to Rebecca, with an additional senior vice president overseeing her performance reviews. Any significant career advancement would require approval from a committee, not just Nathan. Miss Hart, one of the board members, an older woman named Patricia Gonzalez, spoke directly to Olivia. I want to be clear about something. This arrangement is highly unusual, and many people will question your abilities and accomplishments. Are you prepared for that level of scrutiny? Olivia met Patricia's gaze steadily. With respect, ma'am, I've faced scrutiny my entire life. Growing up poor in a small town, being the first in my family to attend college, entering a field dominated by people who don't look like me or come from where I come from. Scrutiny isn't new. What's new is having someone willing to stand beside me while I prove myself. Patricia's stern expression softened slightly. Fair enough. Then I expect you to prove yourself beyond any shadow of doubt. Make us all look smart for taking this chance. I intend to, Olivia promised. After the meeting, Nathan walked her to the elevator. They maintained professional distance, but his eyes held warmth and pride. "That was incredibly brave," he said quietly. "I learned from someone who values courage," Olivia replied. The community presentation for the South End project took place the following week. Olivia stood before a room full of residents, local officials, and quantum staff, presenting the solar implementation plan she had poured her heart into. She explained the technology in accessible terms, addressed concerns about costs and maintenance, and painted a vision of a neighborhood where clean energy was not a luxury, but a right. When she finished, the applause was genuine and enthusiastic. Several community members approached with questions and expressions of excitement. Nathan watched from the back of the room, his face carefully neutral, but his eyes shining with admiration. Later, as they reviewed the feedback in a conference room with the full team, Rebecca leaned over and whispered to Olivia, "You just silenced every doubter in this company." That presentation was brilliant. Over the following months, Olivia continued to prove herself. The South End project launched successfully, bringing sustainable energy to over 300 families. Her innovative approach to community engagement became a model for other quantum initiatives. Trade publications featured her work. Invitations to speak at conferences arrived regularly. The gossip didn't disappear entirely, but it changed in nature. People still talked about her relationship with Nathan, but increasingly they also talked about her accomplishments, her ideas, her impact. And when someone did question whether she deserved her success, there were always colleagues ready to defend her based on the evidence of her work. Nathan and Olivia navigated their relationship with care and intentionality. They maintained professional boundaries at work, never showing favoritism or inappropriate affection. But after hours, they built something real. Dinners where they talked about everything except work. Weekends exploring Boston together. Quiet evenings in her apartment or his house. Learning each other's rhythms and dreams. 6 months after that first interview, Olivia stood in Nathan's office for a very different kind of meeting. The sun was setting over the harbor, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Nathan stood by the window, the same spot where everything had begun. "Do you remember the first time we stood here?" he asked. "Every detail," Olivia replied, moving to stand beside him. "I was terrified that day," Nathan admitted. "Terrified of what I was feeling, of how quickly you had become important to me. I thought maintaining distance was protecting us both." "And now?" Olivia asked. Nathan turned to face her, reaching into his pocket. "Now I know that the greatest protection is honesty. The greatest strength is vulnerability. And the greatest risk is not taking the chance on something real." He opened a small velvet box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "Olivia Hart, you walked into my office 6 months ago and changed everything. You challenged me to be braver, to care more, to look beyond quarterly profits and see the real impact we can have on people's lives. You've proven yourself beyond any doubt, not just to this company but to me, showing me what true courage looks like every single day." Tears filled Olivia's eyes as Nathan continued, "I love you, not because you work for my company or because of what we've built professionally, but because of who you are. Your compassion, your determination, your ability to see possibilities where others see obstacles. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Olivia said without hesitation. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." As Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, Olivia thought about the journey that had brought them here, the unexpected interview that had changed both their lives, the gossip they had faced together, the professional challenges she had overcome, the love that had grown stronger through every obstacle. They had started as CEO and intern, divided by power and position. But they had become partners in every sense of the word, building a future together, both professionally and personally, proving that real love doesn't compromise ambition, but enhances it, that two people can lift each other up rather than holding each other back. Outside the window, the city lights began to twinkle, each one a reminder of the millions of lives they hoped to touch through their work. But in that moment, wrapped in each other's arms, the only lives that mattered were their own. Two people who had taken a chance on an unexpected connection and found something worth fighting for. The next morning, when they announced their engagement to the company, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Rebecca hugged Olivia tightly, whispering, "I knew from day one you two were meant for each other." Even James Sullivan offered genuine congratulations. Having found his own relationship in the meantime and gained perspective on his earlier jealousy, Olivia and Nathan's story became something of a legend at Quantum Enterprises, not as a cautionary tale about workplace relationships, but as a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. That courage means being honest about your feelings, even when it's complicated. That real success isn't just about professional achievements, but about building a life with meaning and love. Years later, when Olivia became Chief Innovation Officer at Quantum, no one questioned whether she had earned the position. Her track record spoke for itself. Dozens of successful projects, communities transformed, lives changed through accessible, sustainable technology. And through it all, Nathan stood beside her, not as her boss, but as her partner, her biggest supporter, and her greatest love. Their wedding took place on an autumn evening. Surrounded by family, friends, and colleagues who had witnessed their journey, as Olivia walked down the aisle toward Nathan, she thought about that nervous young woman who had stood outside Quantum Enterprises months earlier, hoping for a job interview. She could never have imagined that she would find not just a career, but a calling. Not just a job, but a purpose. Not just an employer, but a soulmate. When Nathan took her hands and spoke his vows, his voice was steady and sure. "I promise to always see you as my equal, to celebrate your successes as victories for us both, to support your dreams with the same passion you bring to mine. I promise to love you not despite the complications, but because you're worth every challenge." Today and always, Olivia's own vows were equally heartfelt. "I promise to never stop proving myself, not because I have to, but because excellence is who we both are. I promise to build our life together with the same creativity and determination I bring to everything else. I promise to love you fiercely, honestly, and completely. You took a chance on me that day in your office, and I'll spend every day showing you it was the best decision you ever made."
Yes.
As they sealed their promises with a kiss, applause erupted from their guests. Rebecca was crying happy tears. Olivia's parents beamed with pride, and the Quantum team cheered for the couple, who had shown them that love and ambition could coexist beautifully. The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and speeches that celebrated not just their love, but their partnership. Patricia Gonzalez, the board member who had questioned Olivia so intensely that first day, raised her glass in a toast. "I'll admit I had my doubts about this relationship, but watching Olivia and Nathan together, both professionally and personally, has taught me something valuable. True leadership means having the courage to follow your heart while maintaining your integrity." These two have done exactly that. They've set a new standard for what partnership looks like. To Olivia and Nathan, may your love continue to inspire us all. As the evening drew to a close, and Olivia and Nathan prepared to leave for their honeymoon, they stood together one last time looking at the Quantum building in the distance. "Lit up against the night sky? No regrets?" Nathan asked, pulling her close. "Not a single one," Olivia replied. "That interview really did take an unexpected turn." "The best kind of unexpected," Nathan agreed. "The kind that changes everything for the better." They drove off into their future together. Two people who had dared to believe that love was worth the risk, that honesty was worth the scrutiny, and that sometimes the most professional thing you can do is acknowledge when something extraordinary is happening and have the courage to embrace it. Their story became a reminder that life's greatest gifts often come disguised as complications, that the bravest thing you can do is be honest about what you feel, and that real love doesn't ask you to choose between your dreams and your heart. It helps you build a life where both can flourish. The end.